So grab your favorite drink or a cup of coffee. Kingsley, cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, it's the Pirate Broadcast, and we are here again today. It's an amazing day. Make it a great day because, you know, what we have a choice. So let's make it a great day. And we have always someone interesting in the room. Sometimes it's just me. So I have to make it interesting. But today we have Kingsley. Kingsley, how are you this morning?
Russ, hey, I'm doing like if I could do any better, I would probably just don't know what to do with myself. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. And
Well,
yourself?
thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. And I want to start this off, Kingsley, because you've been podcasting for a while, and I think that we've probably crossed paths a couple of times.
Yes.
Back in the day. And you know, the thing about podcasting is it's changing, it's evolving, it's growing, and the market share is really out there. And then also you're an author and a speaker, so you know there's that coincides with everything you're doing. And as an individual that helps business owners remove toxic environments, you know, help improve their circumstance in their business, you know, we all have a way of coming around to this kindness thing that I like to talk about. So what is it that you are doing right now, and what do you have coming up right now that is exciting for you, and how are you showing up in the world and sharing that kindness with other people?
You know, Russ, thanks for asking that question, because I think that for me is through a process of, you know, iterations and evolving, as most of us do, right? We start with the idea sometimes, what I did, where somehow I had this idea that it's going to start from, you know, A and go straight to Z, and then right, surprise, surprise, it doesn't work that way.
No.
And then I found it the zigzag idea, right? So in the journey, I realized that having to work with so many people in different ways in my speaking, in my coaching, my consulting, and training, that there's one missing element that I realized was really holding people back. And I'm thinking, well, how can we unleash the human potential? Because people have so much more to offer, and
Oh,
especially in the workplace, right? When I look at the stats and all the you know, the people who are doing these surveys and, you know, Gallup polls and all those different things, and saying, hey, what's the missing element here? Because the leaders are being trained, the people are being trained, they are getting all the skills that they're supposed to get, and people are always putting forth those things, but yet the results are not what they're supposed to be. And the question is, why? And I realized you can put all the training on top of a foundation that is porous or cancerous, and you're never going to get the results you want to, right? And so I say, well, what's the problem? And the problem is toxicity. When there's a toxic relationship or relationships is what hold people back. So that's where I'm at. That's what I've been working on. That's what I'm excited about. And I'm working on the current book to address that very problem, as a matter of fact.
fantastic. You know, and the reason I brought this up is because I think it's important for everyone to understand that, you know, just like today, you know, the sun's coming up, the world's turning around, we're spinning through space on the same object, right? This place called Earth, and we all have a choice. And when you have a team of individuals and they're all moving toward the same goal in a positive way, things seem to work out. You know, I've worked on some incredible teams that have done some amazing work that have accomplished incredible goals because it was a positive experience for everyone, and everybody understood what needed to be done, and they all had a part. You know, much like a pirate ship, you know, everybody has a part, and if you don't play your part, you know, there's trouble, right?
Yes, yes.
Only in life, we sometimes have these circumstances where people aren't even in the best mood. They're always, everything is a problem. Everything is a challenge. You know, I can't do this because of that. And it's victim mentality and toxic nature. It's like, oh, you don't do this or you don't do that, or it's always, and we and we see it, and I'm not sure, how to change it. So what kind of recommendations do you have for people in smaller organizations, that little things that we can change, or little habits, or little things that need to be, different? How do you change a culture in producing a positive outcome with a toxic environment?
Yeah, what I find, Ross, and in talking to so many people and hearing from so many people their stories, I just recently interviewed someone on my show, and this person was in a very toxic situation. And I asked a very similar question, which I've asked several people. And the struggle is that they, from the bottom up, feel so helpless. They feel like, well, we can't do much. What can we do? Because we don't have the resources, the access to certain things, and the power to leverage to somehow call about those things. So really, it has to be from leadership. So my focus is on helping the leader to realize he or she is responsible for creating the tone in that workplace, because they have access, as I mentioned before, to those resources and to those people, and they can leverage certain of their power to make things happen. So it has to start with them. However, those leaders have to begin with self-awareness, because sometimes they are the
Sometimes
ones.
they are the problem.
The problem.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
It is, Russ. It is, because what happened? Who wants to say, "Yeah, I am the problem," right? We want to blame other people, and
Yeah.
so you mentioned a good word, because people are in persecutor mode or victim mode. So who wants to get there first and play the victim, or who are going to become the persecutor? So we all want to then say, "Hey, yeah, you did this, and because of that, I did this." Well, I just simply say, "Okay, well, how do we get to the bottom? How do we get a better result?" And I just tell leaders, what if you begin with self-awareness and begin to be a noticer? Notice what's happening with you, but also notice what's happening around you. So when you have your antenna up the way it ought to be, you're going to be much more very curious and ask questions and listen, because people are going to have, and they're pointing out to you already, or they're leaving the workplace, right? So something is going on. So leadership is really the critical piece to making this shift to give that kind of culture you described so well earlier, Russ.
Yeah, I really can appreciate that, because anyone that's worked for a toxic boss, or someone that is just not aware of the negative impact they're making on an environment is just, it's just impossible. It's impossible. So I applaud your ability and opportunity to go out in the world and search out those little variables that can make a difference in other people's life. Because we were talking, and I've had this subject on quite a few times. It's like, how do we make a decision on how to, pay attention, have a little kindness? It doesn't take much, it's just a little shift in your mentality to be able to be kind. And so it's so important for everyone to just kind of take that moment and say, am I contributing, or am I causing an outcome?
Yeah.
And it could be positive or negative. Is it a positive outcome, or is it a negative outcome?
Yeah.
So every step we take has to be moving toward an ultimate goal. And as a leader, we have to have a vision on what it is and the outcome needs to be, and then move in a positive direction. Hey, Kingsley,
100%.
I want to shout out to some of the individuals that are here. Angie, thank you so much for Gabriel. Gabriel's in the house. He's just starting out. He's just a podcaster. He's starting to do live stream. I encourage him along his journey. Carol is an awesome individual that is doing a lot of work in attitudes and a lot of environments. Lori Knudsen, thank you so much. She's on the same page. Eliminating the environment of hostility, right, is so important. Katri, good morning from Finland. Thank you so much for being here. Sherry Lawley, hope you saved a seat for Kenyatta. I love you. You're awesome. Byron Prickett. Hello, everyone. Feeling good. Where are you? Where's everyone from? Let me know where you're from, because we got Finland here. We got the U.S. We got a couple of different. Linda Tilson. She's up Washington way. So These are all individuals, Kingsley, they're passionate about kindness. They're passionate about business. They're here for a reason, and they want to understand how they can impact the world in a more positive way. So, as an individual, what recommendations do you have that we can actually maybe shift our mind and shift our attitude toward other people in the workplace? And like myself, I work for myself. I've worked for myself for years. I've been, a freelancer, independent contractor, whatever you want to label it as. I like to work with people I like to work with. So it's like
Yes, yes.
I try to find that combination. It's like, and not everyone has that luxury or opportunity or hasn't looked at that as a lifestyle. So, when you're showing up for work and you're doing things, there's a lot of things that we can do to kind of set our minds in motion to be more positive. You got any recommendations for us that you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. I think what happened is, when I go back to what you said earlier, if we shift away from the victim mentality that things are happening to me and begin to look at what is happening for me. So if I'm in a toxic situation or relationship and I realize, okay, what can I do? How can I contribute in a positive way? Because, here's how I look at things, Russ. An equation, if I change a variable of any kind on one side of the equation, the results must be different. It cannot remain the same. So
Mhm.
I'm one variable in that equation. So what can I do? And I also apply the same principle of emotional intelligence, which my book is The Intelligent Leader, Succeed Where Others Failed, because my idea of intelligence is simply saying, how can you take the principles of emotional intelligence and the skill sets there, which is, of
Yeah.
course, self-awareness, self-control, social awareness, and relationship management. How can I take those skills and apply to myself? Why? Because I'm looking out that I want to be the best person possible. And the phrase I used earlier, I want to unleash my human potential. I don't want to operate just in a zone of competence or a zone of excellence. I want to operate in a zone of genius, right? So to get to that place, I need to identify what is that one thing that I'm good at. And if I'm aware of that, so if it might be I'm good at listening in a relationship, why not shift to the listener mode and do more listening and curious questioning rather than adding to whatever is happening and then let someone else control the moment? I'm not in control at that time. Someone else is dictating what I do. So if I pull back and zoom out and say, hey, wait a minute, to be in control of this moment and operate in my zone of my genius zone, I must then be able to take control. And that requires self-awareness and
Mhm.
self-management, which is looking at my emotions. What emotions are being triggered right now? What is that causing me to do? And then shape my behaviors with a different set of, set my behaviors from a different place of my emotions. So that is a key part where every single person can be responsible for and should be responsible for.
I think you bring up several good points, and thank you for sharing that, Kingsley. I also want to add that the thing about self-awareness is the beautiful thing about self-awareness and learning what that genius zone is. It affords you the opportunity to actually understand if you're in the right spot too.
Yeah. Yes.
Because if it's a toxic environment and you're doing what you can to grow as an individual and being able to flourish by changing something in your own environment, you may not be the best fit for that culture, that toxic culture. And so the challenge is going back to the business owner and saying, okay, your culture has to change. Otherwise, your employee churn is going to burn your revenue, your earnings down to zero quickly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause
And
it
Russ,
takes time and effort to train new people. It takes
yeah.
it's expensive.
And I think you hit a very good point just now. You know, is a rare individual who's going to take the time and the energy to do that and bring to that person's attention, because he or she is just like have had it. They're going to go out because they're very high performers and their best people, they know they can get another job someplace. So more than trying to find a way to even communicate that, is there, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm out of here, and they're gone. And before long, so the company, that organization is losing their best people. And when they're gone, they still have that toxic environment remaining, which means people are going to just little by little believe in, right? So yes, there's a rare individual who will go and bring it to the attention because they're very vested and they want the best for the company, but not everyone is going to do that, like, you know, right? So they're going to, hey, why bother? I'm out of here. You don't care.
It takes an amazing individual to step up and do something internal. That's why you play such a vital role to individuals. So I have to ask, Kingsley, and I know this is probably a challenge for you, because a lot of times the culture is set by the leader. And then probably a good percentage of those leaders that are not self-aware could be contributing to the problem and not solving the problem. So how do you have that conversation with individuals? Because I know a couple of individuals like yourself that are, you know, help remedy the culture internal to the company. And it's having those, what's the crucial conversations, right?
Yes.
And so having those crucial conversations, or those critical conversations, how do you step forward and start those conversations in order to have somebody say, hey, I'm gonna hire you to tell me what I'm doing wrong? I mean, because it always amazes me that, the people that excel further than most are the ones that are willing to invest in themselves. Right?
Yes.
And so the ones that are failing may not necessarily be aware enough to see that they need to invest in themselves.
Yes.
So it's a kind of a catch-22. So how do you navigate those waters, and how do we want to think about that going forward in our own business?
We navigate those waters carefully. We tread very carefully, right? Because you're right. Some people don't want to even admit, or sometimes they're admittance of that. The meaning associated with that for them might be, I'm a failure, I'm not a good leader, and they don't want to have that. And I get that. So we approach it from the standpoint of how's things working for you right now? How are your people? How are they showing up? Are they showing up enthusiastic? And, are they engaged as highly as they're supposed to be? Because every leader know that. They look at the numbers, right? The metrics are there. Productivity might be down. Absenteeism is up. Sick days are being asked for more, right? People are contentious, and they're just not realizing the results they're looking for. So if they're honest, they're going to say, yeah, things could be better. So I ask the question, could things be better? Okay, in what areas could it be better? And they're going to give me those areas. Most times they will say, hey, we could be better in our performance, or our Q1, Q2, whatever the case might be. Okay, well, what do you think might be happening here? And when we break that down from a standpoint of what it is you're losing out and how you have an opportunity to change that, now it's not like it's them. It's a system-wide problem, right? So let's just be systemic here in our approach and look at the pieces that are contributing to this breakdown, right? So most honest leaders will start with that, because I'm not coming in and say, you need to change, or the problem. No, I'm not, obviously not, right? I want to have them, I want to empower them as well, because I believe that not only the people that they're hiring or they're leading, whose potential ought to be unleashed, that leader ought to be at the optimum place that they ought to be, because when they are there, they feel better about themselves, and also their people get the better part of them. And that's what I want, a win-win for everyone.
Well, it's like any environment, in life, when everything is working together for the optimum output, and everybody understands what their role is, what their commitments need to be, and what their obligations and responsibilities are, it seems like everything seems to work a lot smoother.
Yes.
So as a leadership role, whether you're at the top, in the middle, a contributor, I like the way you explain that. What am I contributing to this event, this outcome? And it's really important for all of us to understand is, what are we contributing? Because those little things it's like one of my pet peeves is, it's not my job. Okay, well, it may not be in your job description. However, are you a contributor, or are you helping contribute to the opposite outcome? And it's a mindset that we can all adopt, and it's not necessarily challenging. It's something that we want to look at. So self-awareness, there's a lot more visibility on self-awareness now, and I think a lot of people, Carol Campos and Lori Knudsen, we've talked about it with Vicki O'Neill, and all of these individuals. Sherry Lawley is really a champion of it. Kenyatta's doing a lot of behavioral studies and work around behavior, and we all have a certain personality, a certain dynamic in our personality. And like you were saying, everybody has something that they can contribute, something they can bring to the table. And if you have 5 people and they're not working in their genius zone, and then you put them in their genius zone and allow them to do what they're best at, it's amazing. It's night and day. It's night and day to see how that change can take place and what results are, benefiting the company or the organization, right?
Yeah. And I think that when you said something very interesting, Russ, and I think very important, I think ought to be kind of restated, because you're talking about the fact that when people are operating at their optimum, and I think that a leader can help to create an environment where people want to be there. They want to show up and give that leader a win, because a win for that leader is a win for them. So I talk about the 3 R's. If leaders can really embrace these 3 R's, I talk about in my book, The Intelligent Leader, is that if they are, number 1, relatable, find a way to be relatable to your people. And that means vulnerability. It requires, interaction with them and all the different things that goes along with that. Secondly, the second R is respectable. Respect for yourself, but also for your people. How are you showing up in a respectable manner that people are going to operate with that as part of the cultural core, impetus in the company? And the last R is reliable. So they must be able to trust you and depend on you and know that you have their back. So when a leader can show up in those 3 R's capacity, I find that will set the stage where people are going to rally and be enthusiastic, because now this leader my leader is reliable, is respectable and relatable. Man, I want to give him or her my best self so we can all win. So the leader can start by just doing those things.
Yeah. I really like that. Kenyatta says behaviorally smart leaders will identify their own behavioral superpowers and then choose to have situational awareness to be the best leader they can. And that goes back to helping people understand that change can happen.
Yes.
And we can all contribute to a positive outcome.
Yes.
Because, sometimes you get locked in this mentality of, okay, this is what I do. This is my job. Please leave me. Let me do my job. That's all I need to do. Lori Knudsen says communication and alignment create opportunities. It's just amazing to see opportunities for progress. And I think inherently, this is what I want to believe. And I want to, if you have a different outcome or a different experience, I'd love to know about it. But inherently, everybody wants to do a good job.
Yeah.
Not everybody knows what that good job description looks like, right?
Yes.
So it's part of your responsibility and part of the organization responsibility, the leadership, to define some of those things, maybe.
Yeah.
Craft those in a way that everybody is very clear on the outcomes and the benefits.
And I agree. I think that premise, by beginning with that premise and giving the people the benefit of the doubt, they want to do what's best. They're coming in, they're spending most of their day hours with you, right? So obviously they want to make sure that time is spent well. They want to go home feeling as if they spent the best part of their day doing something that's satisfying, something that they feel that make them feel significant. So we want to help them to have that result. So I find that when we create a culture that provides that, they will continue to do that. I'll give you a quick example, Russ. I was in a situation where, I showed up where I was, wanted to do my best. That's how I began.
Uh-huh.
And I even saw ideas of what I found could help the company do better, because I'm on the front line. I'm seeing things, hearing things more so than people who are back there somewhere. And I just brought that to the attention of someone and say, hey, maybe we could do it this way, right? And I just put the idea out there. And that idea, just a simple idea, the person now, maybe, I'm not sure, they felt like I was trying to impose on, and I'm not the supervisor or the leader. So and they went and told the person now who was the leader of the where I was, and this person took it in a very wrong way. I mean, I don't know exactly the words that were shared, but anyway, long story short, I was called in for a meeting. Now, this one idea I thought was going to help the company and also help me. So the win-win.
Uh-huh.
And I knew it would have. And they called me in for a meeting. And the next thing that happened was I was the bad guy, because how dare me, I'm thinking, what did I do? So, and then I realized something from that day on. I got to be careful what I say. So I'm going to keep my ideas to myself.
Yeah.
And long story short, Russ, I eventually leaving that organization. And I'm thinking, it's so sad, because I believe that could be very, very helpful for them. So what happened? They really shut down something that I was fired up about. So I want to do my best. So I find that happens so often in companies where people are very well intended, but somehow how they manage those well-intended moments can really, devastate that person, where they felt like, what? People don't care. They don't want me here. I'm going to be out of here. Or I'm going to show up and just do the least I can and just say, that's not my job. So when they say that's not my job, it may be because of something like what happened to me, that they have now come to that place and resigned themselves. Well, why even bother?
Yeah. So leadership, pay attention. When somebody comes up with an idea, even if it's not in alignment with what your thoughts are, receive that idea, think about it, don't attack, don't diminish the idea, because everything has a value. Everything that we do has value, and it may not be the right time. It may not be the right place. However, the fact that you contributed, it should be an indication that you want to be a supporter of the organization, right?
I agree.
And sometimes that gets turned around and people feel attacked.
Yes.
Say, well, this was my idea, and why they take it personal, like, okay, because I had an idea that's different than your idea, I must be good or bad. It's not good or bad. It's just it's an organizational thing that takes place all around the world. It's personal preference, it's concepts, it's all of these things. And so becoming self-awareness, I think, is the most critical part of this conversation. Kingsley, is let's become more aware of our surroundings, more aware of how we feel about our surroundings and what those surroundings are doing to us or for us.
I agree 100%. I think that's where that self-awareness piece is so critical to this whole conversation. I think you're right, because that's why I say, that's every leader or every toxic workplace is one skill away, just one skill away from whatever best hope they want. And I said, that's the one skill I bring and say, hey, here's that one skill that you might be liking. And it's not that it's a deficit per se. It could be that you may not see it as such, but it's one skill. And what could that be? What could that be? So I help them to explore what's the one skill that keeps you from where you are to where you want to go. Let's go and get it and implement it so you can have better results. That's the bottom line.
I love it. I love it. So if you had to leave the world with one concept, one idea from Kingsley, what would it be today?
That you are one skill away from your best hope.
I love that. I love that. You're one skill away from your best hope.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Kingsley. All the gratitude in the world for you being here today. I really appreciate the fact that you took time out of your schedule to become a pirate. You're now officially a pirate. Thank you so much. The pirate community applauds you and supports you. And so, as you guys know, and you understand this, that go about your day, go find your genius zone. Let us know how we can help you. give a shout out to each other and, make some comments and connect with each other. If you're not connected with Kingsley, go connect with Kingsley. Tell him Russ sent you. He's a pirate. We got to support this guy. So thank you so much. And as you always know, kindness is cool. Smiles are free. And you enjoy the day. Till next time.